So, right away, I just wanted to say, I think there's a couple other questions that I'll answer in a second, but um, just looking at this image, it kind of, in a really sort of subconscious way, mirrors everything that you've set up here about your own personal experience. At least, I could be totally off on this, but to me, um, I feel like, this sort of represents your personal experience, like the unicorn being this sort of magical creature and, sort of maybe this metaphor for all of the places that you've traveled to, the places that you've gone that do seem magical and mysterious to you, and the fact that it's sort of contained in this box, in this space that's surrounded by nature. And as you're describing your town, how it's this very sort of mundane place that's surrounded by a national park. And then I think the thing that makes it most interesting to me is these sort of half run over and knocked over construction, like a barrier and a construction sign. I think it's an interesting juxtaposition that's going on there. And I think this aspect sort of reminds me of the idea of, the very mundane and boring things that you're speaking about, and how, it's just sort of knocked over and it feels a little bit defeated. So you've got this beautiful kind of mystical icon here with this very mundane and ordinary and sort of defeated object over here. And I think if you have the opportunity to go back, just come in a little bit closer and really sort of document this right here, because we get enough of the nature and I don't necessarily need to see as much of the road below. I think really what's going on in the frame is just happening right here. And because it can get really tricky with art installations, sometimes because the artists themselves have their own sort of meaning, and you can definitely, as the photographer, explore your own interpretation of their work and create your own work. But sometimes you have to be careful not to just photograph it for the sake of, oh, look, it's a cool art thing that's in, my neighborhood. um, and I think, you definitely have got something going on here that goes beyond that. And I liked, the fact that this was something new for you, and you've like, it's been around for however long, and it's the first time you've come across it. So it's like you said, it's like this, it's a unicorn within a unicorn in a way, because it's this whole new magical discovery for you. And so, yeah, I think just maybe if you have the opportunity to come back and just really sort of get right into this space and explore that juxtaposition, I think would be really cool. Um, and then I know that he would ask a question over here. Oh, about the layering. So I think it really depends. I mean, I think it is good to obviously, like, to learn, those foundations of composition and to work on layering. But sometimes you'll find that that's just not who you are as an artist. Like, that's not something, it's not a tool that you need to use to say what you want to say, and that's okay. I think the difference is knowing that that's not who you are versus just not, feeling like you can, like, not feeling like you've mastered it enough. So it just depends. Like, I would just ask, um, ask yourself, like, is it because um, I'm, I need to learn it a little bit better? Or is it just, like, I feel like I'm comfortable with it and it's just not for me? Like, I think that's the difference. And yeah, so I think, you're on the right track here. And, I'm glad that you're able to find and sort of inspiration in your surroundings, where before maybe you couldn't find it as much. And I totally understand that, wanting to, that routine, but still wanting to sort of escape and, like, go and explore new things. Um, before, like, when I first moved here, I didn't want to live in Florida at all. I hated it. And like, just like I had said in the week one, um, And it was always, I was like, oh, well, maybe in a couple years we can find a place somewhere else, and let's move to this state, or let's move to this state. And I was always wishing, like, oh, let's just go here. And that, over the years, obviously that hasn't happened, and I'm still here. But the difference is that I've learned to see it in a whole new light through photography, and I really appreciated that, because it's made me appreciate my surroundings. And, I definitely still hate a lot of things about this place, and that hasn't stopped. But I've also learned to love so many things that I would look past before, and I think that that's the something that's great about photography is that you really learn to appreciate the things that you used to look past. So just keep going, and I think you're definitely on the right track here.